Ready to get shaken or stirred? Beautiful people, it's time to take a sip. Grab a mocktail, cocktail, or no tail because things are about to get shaken or stirred. Today, we're drinking
some kombucha, homemade kombucha, made by alums. Truly, what flavor is it?
today we had a mixture of matcha, green tea, and black tea. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a try.
All right, cheers.
Yum.
That's good. It's in the spot. Well, today we have a very exciting question to dig deep into. And I think it's something that we all have a moment in our lives questioned. Question for you today, Ozzy, is...
Or for these beautiful people.
Oh, true. Very true. How do you define success?
How do I define success? I feel like that has changed a lot over time. As a child, success was, well, as a child through maybe literally till the pandemic is when my definition of success changed. So pre-pandemic, my definition was very much influenced by my parents in the way that they migrated from their home countries to the United States for a better living. They're from the countryside, very humble beginnings. They tell me stories of they might go days without eating at times back in their home country. So when I hear these type of stories of how limited their life was growing up, and the fact that pushed them or encouraged them really to move and migrate to the States for a better life, kind of put the pressure on me to be like, you have to go to school, you have to get straight A's, you have to do this, you have to do that, because that is a definition of success. You have to graduate high school, you have to go to college, you need a 4-year degree. And it's all these layers of what defining success looked like for them. And as a kid, right, I was very much like, yeah, I'm gonna listen to what my parents say. They want the best for me, and I don't want to struggle the way they say they struggled. So they must be right in regard to defining success as correlated with how far I go through the education system. And even going through the education system for me was very challenging from the very beginning. I didn't know the language. I grew up with speaking Spanish in the household till like the 6th grade, more or less. So
Yeah.
Spanish was definitely my primary language. So just my educational history has been very challenging already in itself. Being the first in my family to go to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, I just broke all these barriers, and in a sense I had to do it alone through those spaces, but very much I had a lot of support in the background. So defining success for me has been very much more of go to college, get your 4-year degree, enter corporate America, and make your money. That was the definition for me in order to have a successful life. And sure, yes, today I'm living that life, and I very much appreciative and reaping all these rewards of all the effort my family contributed to me being where I am today. And I'm very much happy about that. I'm not complaining.
Right.
But I feel like now that I reached this milestone, I'm like, so what?
What's next, huh?
How do I continue pushing my boundaries or redefining what success means for me? And I don't think I started to question that until very recently. I feel like the pandemic really made me want to reflect, or it didn't make me want to reflect, it made me reflect.
It was forced. We
It
were all
was
forced to think about it.
How about you? How have you defined success?
I feel like success is one of those terms that a lot of people always think about. I remember graduating school or even starting college where I started to realize, man, I really want to be successful. And I think for me, it's that notion of that American dream, I think. But I don't know, in the simplest terms, what your experiences are very valid, and that's kind of the foundations that I had to go through. But when the question was immediately asked, the first thing that came to mind was that man, like, I just want to make money and be able to survive and have a good life. And good life means that you won't have to live day by day thinking through what, man, do I have the financial means to afford what I can to survive, right? And growing up, there are moments that my family had to go through food stamps, and it was a hard life that we had to live. And for me, success meant that I didn't have to go through that, and I personally wouldn't ever be put into that circumstances. And don't get me wrong, I was super grateful for the fact that we had a system that allowed us to get that additional support, because if we didn't, we would have been in a lot of trouble. But overall, in simplest ways, truly, if I could get a good job, make money, have like some sort of a saving, that truly in my mind, early on in my career, was what I thought success was. For you though, how do you, like, where in the journey do you think you're now headed towards? Like, how, like, I know it shifted post pandemic. That's crystal clear.
Yes.
But if you see the runway of your entire life at the end of the tunnel, and you would say, like, I don't know, I want to say, like, deathbed, because it sounds a little morbid, but you're, like, at that end of the, very far. And if a person were to ask you, how was your success in life? Like, what's going through your, what does that image look like?
I feel like I just started. I feel like up till recently, I feel like all I've been doing is following and learning, and during those episodes, I didn't realize that I was actually learning and growing, right? I just knew that I had to pick myself back up, because that's how I learned growing up, right? Like, sure, I have both of my parents, but they didn't really know how to navigate the educational system, or just being two immigrant parents in a very urban city like San Francisco, and navigating even, I feel like I was just an awkward, weird duckling, you know? Like, I was just so, yeah, awkward. And like, I definitely went through a lot of, like, learning and growing as an individual. So I feel as though now I'm in a position where I have learned who I am, in a sense, and what I want. And working towards what I want means exploring new things, such as, to your point, exploring what a podcast would look like, or even in the future, just picking up a sewing machine and just being able to tailor clothes to my own body, because I realized as a short dude, not many pants are really tailored to someone who's 5'5". You know, it's
Right.
very, very frustrating when I do go shopping and I'm like, I have to take these to get fitted. Well, I mean, I love the process, you know, like, it makes me feel all cute or whatever.
Right. You're like, yeah.
But the hustler side of me was like, I could do this at home, you know, like, I could very much just learn the skill, pick it up. And at that point, once I learned that, I'm like, that might lead into me designing my own clothes, or like just really just custom fitting my own clothes. And I feel like that's where I like to say I like to dream big, because I feel like now that I reached a definition of success of what my parents feel proud in, I'm like, what's next for me now that it's my own, that I could feel pride in? And I think it's just being able to explore these different channels of creativity, because I've already defined and achieved the success that my parents saw for myself and what brings them happiness, because I do care for them. I do care that they migrated to this country for a better life, for the better life of their children, and I'm going to honor their dreams, right? And now that I've done that, I feel like now it's my turn. It's my turn to be able to say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to buy myself that ring that I just showed you, you know? Like, I'm going to try, because I realized that I have fallen so many times and I've been able to pick myself right back up. Yeah, it hurts, but whatever. The learning process the growing process of that cycle was what I found so beneficial, and it brought so much more happiness at the end.
I think that's powerful in what you're talking about here. It's I don't know if it's the immigrant perspective at play.
You know that worries me for my kids.
Sounds like another topic, huh?
Because, yeah, why? Well,
I don't know. it kind of hit me a little bit when you were saying that you had accomplished or met your parents' dreams and that now it's your time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's universal. Like, I had a moment of thinking, like, do I feel that way? There was a certain point in the journey where I did truly feel, like we were saying, like the success was tied to what our parents were suggesting and hinting. It wasn't plain written out for me because I don't think they fully knew, but it was directional. It's like, go to school, get a job, and it was that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was this moment of I found the job and I'm like, what is this? And that's why I went through this spiral of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm good at. I can try hard. I can pick everything up. I can do anything. And it wasn't until I had coaches and mentors on the side of my journey at Walls, right? And they were able to help tease it out and help me identify it. And that's where the power of impact, I think, came for me. And for you, it sounds like it's all the way up to this point. It was only up till the pandemic that caused you to trigger it. I think for me, it was a little bit earlier on. It was like right after college when we were interning together. Yeah. I was like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah. And maybe just to add a little layer there, because I feel like why that was such a turning point for me is because when the pandemic started, I hit a very low time in my life where I realized I was in a very low energy, that I needed help. And so I went to therapy. I had to like really like dig out my inner thoughts, my inner insecurities. I really had to work on my inner self at that point, which is why stepping out of the pandemic, I feel like this whole new person. I'm like, I really did put in work into myself to be able to just reflect on the past and reflect on the current status and how to work on becoming a better version of myself. And that's what really excites me about just falling over and over again, because I'm able to understand that I know how to pick myself right back up.
When you say falling, in your definition, is falling failing or falling but not failing?
So for example, right, like let's say I don't, and you know, I'm into my physical health and like I really much like could be very type A about it.
Yeah, we all. I've seen that.
When I have a shot, I'm like, oh my god, my calories. You know, like very very annoying about it. I maybe failed for that weekend, but I know that ultimately I have a goal in mind, and I know that one weekend is not gonna hurt me. Maybe this is just a very superficial example of how I go about defining my failure definition, but I do get into myself, or like I'm really hard on myself. Originally, when I did start my health journey, I'm like, if I'm not gonna hit my macros now or my calorie count now, then I'm like, I'm over it and I give up. And that was very much like my mentality, like before the pandemic. Like I would like, yeah, sure, go to the gym, but like I'd be like, I'm too lazy today. Like I wouldn't follow through with my goals. I would have a goal, try it out, but not really execute. So I feel like that I kept failing at achieving what I was saying I wanted to do. And now I feel like I find comfort of like messing up one weekend. I'm going to have a pizza and a couple shots, or a pizza, couple drinks. Like, yeah, I'm going to give myself that opportunity to like breathe over a weekend.
Right.
But very much I know how to pick it back up.
Like bounce back. It's interesting. It's like initially the word was failing, but you've shifted your mindset into, it's not failing per se. You're falling, but you're getting yourself back up. And I think that's a different way of thinking about it. And that's why I caught the word, because I was surprised. Most people correlate the word failure or fail with the word of success.
Interesting.
But you didn't use that. You said falling.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because overall I don't feel like a failure.
But when you were explaining it though, I was thinking for myself too. What is true failure, and did I actually encounter it?
And did you ever fail? And why does imposter syndrome exist if we don't feel like we ever failed or failed at all?
Yeah, it's a very
Hmm.
interesting question.
Because I feel imposter syndrome at least once a week. You know, like it's part of the job.
Or adulting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Might be something that we need to dig into in the future. It's a very open-ended question that I think a lot of people, I'm sure in the audience, has thought about, but never had a moment to truly immerse ourselves and consider. But I do overall, in general, like this notion of failure is a very negative word. Though people say, oh, yeah, you fail. Every time you fail, you're learning something, so it's great. But falling sounds more of a positive spin to it. And I don't know why I feel that way. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I feel that way as you're saying the words and how you were explaining it. So.
I feel like overall, just knowing our friendship and where it stands, I don't know if you notice, but I catch myself reframing your thoughts because your thoughts tend to go more on like the very I'm like, let's reframe that because I feel I know how you feel.
Yeah.
But you're putting so much negative pressure on it. Let's reframe it and make it because I'm much more of a positive person. I feel like overall I do carry a very positive energy and sure I'm gonna have bad days, but it doesn't feel like I'm failing in a sense.
But yeah.
And I don't want to put myself in a space where I feel like I'm failing. Yeah, sure, I might be falling and I know how to learn from that. But it's a way about framing those thoughts that really impact your day to day, in my perspective.
When I think about failing, though, I can't pinpoint a failure. I mean, could I say a failure of, well, there was this original game plan that I was supposed to be, in my mind, a doctor in my mind, and it didn't pan out through college because it was just too dang hard. I guess I could say it's a failure moment. As a result, though, I don't still feel like it was a failure. It feels more, I don't know, a moment, like a missed opportunity. It's almost like that moment that in that moment I felt like, yeah, I felt like a failure. But that word failure disappeared as time has progressed and we've matured and we've moved on from what that success was supposed to be looking like. Because in my mind, that was supposed to be success.
Yeah. And I mean, in someone else's perspective, right? The fact that I achieved my parents' definition of success, in someone else's lens, they could view me as the failure because I didn't achieve my own success. I achieved someone else's definition of success.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the reframing thought process comes into play of like, no, this is my definition of success. You might have a different opinion of what success looks like for you or for me, like, but that's not going to, I guess, yeah, sure, it might hurt in the second to hear someone say that, but whatever, like, that's your perspective, that's your thought or your opinion.
Yeah.
And I won't carry that with me.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, with that, though.
With that, beautiful people, we hope you feel shaken, stirred. Maybe you start to reflect on your own thought process of how you define success. And if you do, well, that's fun.
I mean, overall, though, like, quick couple of words, though.
Yeah.
Shaken, stirred, what are we feeling?
Shaken, stirred. I'm a little shaken just because I still haven't defined what success looks like for me current day. I achieved a certain level of success that I'm very proud of, but like I said, now it's my turn and it's about like, and now I feel like I'm entering that episode of my life where I get to redefine that new foundation. I feel like I'm starting from the ground up again, and I feel like now I'm shaken because like the foundation is not stable yet. You know, I'm figuring it out as I'm going on a day-to-day basis, and I feel like that's the beauty of it, right? Because I'm able to put all these pieces together in the foundation of what I like, what I don't like, and it's just, I don't know, it's just coming together, and I feel like eventually, maybe 10 years out, I'm going to look back and I'm like, that's where it started, you know, like that's how I started to figure it out, and Who knows? At that point, I might have another definition of success or a different milestone. Yeah, that's how I feel. How about you? What are you feeling like?
I mean, I think for the first time in a long time in these conversations, I feel stirred.
Mm.
Stirred by the fact that you and I have defined it a little bit differently. There's so many similarities, but also differences in terms of how we've taken it. And we were just talking about the word failure and falling, and I think that was a very interesting moment of now I'm all confused. I want to dig into that. I want to figure what that means, and it all derived from this original question, and I think that's why I'm stirred today.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, think about it.
We'll get back to the people around that. We'll definitely have that one for you guys.
All right, people. Well, hopefully you feel shaken, stirred, or some type of way. And check in next time. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.